Okay, hello everybody. We're jumping right in because, as you know, we don't want a lot of people and time between us and our wine here. So we have today with us Jean-Étienne and Martine Chermette from really one of the fine properties in Beaujolais. The family goes back, like a lot of these properties, they go back really over 100 years between the Chermette and the Vieilles families that have joined and have become the Chermette domain across many regions in Beaujolais. And maybe Martine can tell us a little bit about how they've acquired some of these properties, especially over the last 20, 30 years. And they, to what I know, to my knowledge, what they are also representative of is really an effort to go back to making Beaujolais more in a traditional, natural way and away from some of the bad habits that became, unfortunately, more widespread in the 80s and the early 90s about too much sugar, too much chaptalization, too much yeast, too much sulfites that sort of gave the Beaujolais a bad name for a while. And these people, these guys with some of the others have really led an effort to go back to a more natural way of letting the terroir and the vines speak for themselves and really creating Beaujolais crus that we are going to be enjoying today. They are very, very high quality and you know, sort of putting Beaujolais back into where it belongs, I think, from a quality point of view. Anyway, so that's the background. I think they're going to do the talking better than we can. And we have the three wines we're going to be tasting today, I think in order, as we agreed. First, the Origine, Vieilles, then the Fleurie, and then the Moulin-a-Vent. And then we can have a little bit of background from Martine and Jean, and then we can have just some discussion about each particular wine. And then if you guys have questions, type them in and we'll manage to get them answered as much as possible.
Okay, sure.
Merci.
So, as you explained, we are a family estate based in the south of Beaujolais region. So here we have a map, and we are in the south here in a village called Saint-Véran. We are in a particularly touristic region called Les Pierres Dorées. So that means golden stones. The houses are made of golden stone, so it's very typical. So we are in this area in South Beaujolais. The estate is very old because we found a fireplace in the old house of the grandparents of Jean-Étienne, dated 1774, so the 18th century. So at the beginning, it was mixed agriculture with cows, grass, a little of vineyard, but it was a mix of this. So I will talk about the history after. At the moment, we produce a wide range of wines of the Beaujolais. So we are based in the south with the rosé wine, white Beaujolais, red Beaujolais, and also in the cru in the north. We produce also sparkling wines called Crémant de Bourgogne, produced in the south. So about the history, so we manage the domain with Pierre-Marie, Martine and Jean-Étienne, and the parents of Pierre-Marie Chermette, their name were Maurice Chermette, the father, and Eugénie Vissou, the mother. And Eugénie Vissou was born here in this place, and this place is called Vissou. So the name of the place is also the name of the family. And the grandfather of Eugénie, so the grandmother of Jean-Étienne, so the grandfather built a big cellar with the stones. And in this cellar, we have huge oak barrels where we store and where our wines are aged. So we like that the red are aged in these big oak barrels. Then the father of Eugénie, Vissou, so the grandmother of Jean-Étienne, so his father was killed at the First World War at about 23 years old, so very young. And he left his wife pregnant of Eugénie Vissou, alone on the farm. So she was alone. There were no men in the place because all men were at the war. And she tried to keep the farm. And then after the war, the grandfather of Jean-Étienne, called Maurice Chermette, came back from captivity, from East Europe, from captivity, and he got married with Eugénie. So he was living in Le Bois d'Ouin. This is a village here where we have planted Chardonnay. So here in Saint-Véran, it's red Beaujolais, and just over the valley, there is a valley, and then Le Bois d'Ouin here. We have the Chardonnay for the white Beaujolais and for the Crémant de Bourgogne. So Maurice Chermette had the hard task to renew the vineyard because the culture was very bad during the war. So he had to plant again and to rebuild the vineyard. Then Maurice Chermette was selling his wines to wine merchants in bulk. He didn't bottle the wines. Then Pierre-Marie Chermette, my husband, took over the estate in 1982. He was 22 years old, so very young, but he was with his father, still there. And he decided to sell the wine in bottles, and he decided to choose the quality at first. And he decided to do quality from the vineyard to the bottle. We began to be known in Paris in the late 80s, where we sold in wine bars in Paris, and we sold the cuvée Origine. At this time, it was called cuvée traditionnelle. Now it's Origine because Jean-Étienne found this name because it is the cuvée who initiated our style. And with this cuvée, we began to be known in Paris, also by the press. We were recognized as one of the best vintners in the late 80s, 90s, to produce a natural wine, as you explained. It was really very different from the fashion at the moment, the fashion of Georges Duboeuf wines. And we decided to vinificate it in a traditional way. So without any chemical yeast, no sugar, no chaptalization, and little sulfites. And we were recognized for this kind of philosophy. And then we began after to export to the United States with Peter Wigand. So now perhaps Jean-Étienne is coming. Now I forgot to explain that in the 90s, we bought, because when Pierre-Marie Chermette took over the estate in the south, there were only 14 hectares. Then we developed the Chardonnay with 5 hectares in Le Bois d'Ouin. And then we bought some cru. Donc at first we bought Fleurie and Moulin-a-Vent, and then Bouilly, Saint-Amour. That was a very big and choice for us to expand. And now the domain is 55 hectares, has 55 hectares. And we produce 350,000 bottles. So then Jean-Étienne came, so I... Jean-Étienne.
No, I'm Jean-Étienne Chermette. I am 33 years old, and I came in the winery in 2017, in January.
17.
17, 17 in January. Now I take care about the vinification of all the wine. I work in the vineyard, supervise in the vineyard as well, and I'm doing the sale in France and in export sale with my mother. And I can explain a little bit about maybe my study. I study oenology during 5 years, and after I did a master of sales and marketing. Sales and marketing international. I worked in Australia, New Zealand, California, in order to make the wine, the vinification in the wineries, and then in Taiwan for the sales. And after this experience, I came in the winery. So I can explain about the vineyard in the winery, how we work, and the type of soil. So we are in the sustainable agriculture.
Just one second. I have a suggestion. Maybe since we're talking about wine, maybe we can start with one of the wines, and as we enjoy it, we can talk about it, about how it's made, about the vineyard. It helps to mix, if you want, the talking and the drinking, so that we can have it more. How's that?
Okay.
Donc, on peut commencer avec l'origine, et puis on en discute en parlant des vignobles, en parlant du processus, et ça aide un peu à mettre tout dans le contexte. If everybody has their glass of Origine, I think, assuming you haven't tasted it yet, now is the time, you know.
Yes, so Origine is
Cheers! Cheers!
Yes. Origine is our first cuvée, and is all vines on average 70 years old. And inside there are vines that my grandfather planted in Saint-Véran. the vineyard of Origine is in south of Beaujolais in Saint-Véran. And in Beaujolais is in the north for the cru on the Beaujolais village appellation is only granitic soil. And in south, in pink area, in Beaujolais area, is limestone clay soil. But there are one exception in Saint-Véran, where we are on 3 villages around, we have granitic soil, like in the cru.
I see.
So Origine, the soil of Origine is come from granitic soil. So that's why this our Beaujolais has have a good structure and can put the age in the time. Good, like 20 years maximum, 20 years. Yes.
Wow.
So this is very special because and important because in Beaujolais, the good Gamay, red Gamay, need the granitic soil, need the granite. And the limestone clay soil is for the white wine.
But all the Beaujolais Nouveau comes from the south, right?
Yes.
So is it from limestone soil or also there's more granitic soil?
Our Beaujolais Nouveau is come from granitic soil.
Okay.
All our red wine is come from granitic soil.
But all the other pink, which is also Beaujolais Nouveau is produced, but in limestone clay soil. So it's less interesting.
Yeah. That was what I was asking. So most of the Beaujolais Nouveau is really planted on limestone soil, except for yours that comes from that is granitic in the south.
Yes,
but in our village, on 3 villages around, we have granitic soil.
Yeah.
So this wine is all our red wine. We use the same vinification for all our red wine. So it's the half carbonic maceration. It means we keep the whole bunch for all our red wine. We put in the tank and we start the maceration on the alcoholic fermentation during 7 years for this wine.
7 days.
7 days, sorry, for this wine. And we do 2 pump over per day. 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening during 10 minutes. For all our red wine. The difference is the days, the duration of the maceration between the Beaujolais and the cru. So this is very important because we don't like the strong extraction. With a pump over, we obtain fruits, soft tannin, and good structure. And we have a good, sorry?
It's avec les tiges. It's whole bunch. It's all
Yes.
whole. So always.
Yes.
Okay.
And the wine could age in the time and has good structure because we have a good terroir, granitic soil, and we don't need to use 15 days of maceration on the pump over. On punch down, sorry. We don't do punch down. We don't destem the grapes because we like when the tannin are round and with fruit. But we have a structure with the soil.
Yeah, and you can see that in this wine. I mean, you definitely see what you're talking about in the fruit, the roundness of the tannins, and really more structure. I don't want to compare it to a Beaujolais Nouveau, but if you wanted to, you would certainly see a big difference between what you expect from a Beaujolais Nouveau and what you get in this, which is not a Beaujolais Nouveau, I understand, but it's very different. But it still has a lot of fruit. And wonder if people want to add any comments, any questions about the wine, people in the group, or that we can ask a question you have, or comments, or observations. Anyone? What else would you say about this wine, Jean-Étienne, in terms of
The Gamay and the red Beaujolais is very
one? Yeah.
is very easy to match with plenty of food. But this for the origin, we can use we can drink with exotic cuisine, Asian as well, dessert, and with different meat, red meat. We can drink with, I think, with charcuterie. I don't know.
Yeah.
Charcuterie.
Cold cuts or charcuterie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
So how is it aged? Is it aged?
Only in stainless steel tank during 6 to 8 months.
Only steel, no wood.
Stainless steel tank, yes.
Il n'y a pas de bois.
No.
Sur celui-là. D'accord. So it is. So the difference in the wines, I guess you're making the difference in the vinification process, not in the fermentation process.
The difference between the wine is the duration of the maceration.
Oui.
Between 7 days for the Beaujolais and until 11 days for the cru, and is the terroir. So we use the same vinification, so we can we like to the wine express the terroir. And the difference is the different type of aging. For the cru, I will explain after when we taste the Fleurie and the Moulin-a-Vent. Voilà. And in the viticulture, in the vineyard, we are in sustainable agriculture. We have with HV3 certification. So we reduce the synthetic product, and we, in order to favorite the biocontrol product. We develop mechanical with tractor work in order to kill the grass around the plants. In the middle, we leave the natural grass because our aim is to have life in the soil with the grass. And in the vinification, we don't add yeast, bacteria, a minimum of sulfite. Voilà. So we try to be as natural as possible.
Okay.
Or our red wine. But my father started in this vinification, this type of vinification, 40 years ago. And me, I continue in this way. And we vinificate between 32 degrees to 26 degrees to obtain the good color, not more than 22 degrees, because after we have too much tannin.
Yeah.
Tannins, and it's not our philosophy. And after we press, after 7 days for this one, when the sugar is finished, is low, and the degree of alcoholic fermentation is finished, after we press and we put directly in the tank for the malolactic fermentation. And for the origin. Voilà, so it's a Beaujolais with a good structure, and we can enjoy with it maybe 2, 3, 4 years later.
And the aromas are in Beaujolais are very often fresh red fruits like strawberries, black currants, raspberries.
Raspberries, yeah.
And sometimes there is a little spicy taste at the finish. Or
we get that we get a little bit of the spice on the.
Yes.
on this. And it's interesting because we're sharing here a little piece of a bit spicy saucisson, and we were worried about it before, but it actually goes well with the wine, which is what you were saying. I mean, you know, it's not a shy wine. Il n'est pas timide. It really stands up to what you're eating. So I think we can see that in the experience we're having here. There's some question. Pardon?
Perhaps you can find in the US, we have another cuvée called Les Griottes.
Oui.
Pierre Chermette in the US, and this wine is less structured, is lighter,
Oui,
and
oui.
pretty and light.
We were looking to, but the Griotte, is that your Beaujolais Nouveau? No, that's
We both, we have Griotte and Origine. We have these two wines in Beaujolais Nouveau, and also after the same. It's the same style, but in Nouveau. Today we have a big event here at the moment for the Beaujolais Nouveau.
Yeah.
And we have Griotte and Origine.
We were choosing between Griotte and Origine, but Peter suggested the Origine, so we picked that. So you know, that was Peter's suggestion. On this whole natural process and biodynamic and organic, there's always the question about, is it worth getting certified? And what does it really mean? Because we know there's an expense with it, there's a process, it's bureaucratic. Is it really worth it? Do you guys think about that? Does it make any difference to be certified and to have a document or not? Or
no, because
Certifié?
no, mais il parle de bio, biodynamie.
Ah.
No, oui, for organic or biodynamie, there are many different points. I don't know, and I'm not. I don't know. We prefer to do our philosophy and to take the advantage of different way. So a method, because in bio we can add yeast. If we are in bio or biodynamie, we can add yeast. We can add a lot of sulfite if we want. So and for the treatment. So yes, to go in rules like this. I don't know. We are in HV3 and we do our philosophy to decrease the synthetic product, to work the soil with a tractor. We don't add yeast, no bacteria. So I don't know. I think we prefer maybe to go in ecology way. I don't know. Maybe it's the future. I don't know, because in the future we are all maybe in organic, because we won't have choice. So we need to find, I think, ecology way. Because when we are in organic, we use more and more copper, treatment, more gas. So I don't know.
Interesting.
In fact, the philosophy of Pierre-Marie Chermette, he wanted to be free.
Yeah.
To do in his own way. He doesn't want any certification.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Same for me.
Okay, I get it. That's good. Now, another question, and that's a very good question, because it's a comment that comes up a lot. People talk about structure when they're talking about wine. This wine has structure. And of course, we all read it in critics and people's comments about wine. So we have a question here. So what does it really mean to you when you say structure in a wine?
Structure is the tannins. Is the soil. What the soil and the granite give to the grapes, and the grapes give to the wine. Is the power of the wine. It's not because you have tannins dry and with bitterness and more. It's not the quantity of the tannin. The structure. Good structure is
The quality
of the wine.
of the tannins
Of the
also.
tannin,
Yeah.
And also the structure.
With the degree, alcoholic degree.
In our case, the structure comes from the terroir, from the soil, because if you see our soil, we had to cut the hill, the soil, the hill, to build a new winery, a big winery. And when we cut the soil, we discovered that we had only a few centimeters like this of
Soil.
La terre.
Soil.
Yeah. And so about 30 centimeters, and then under it's the rock. So the plant has to go very deep and through the rock to find the to eat, to find the what the plant needs. And this is the terroir, this is the granitic structure.
Yeah.
When you have a rich soil, the plant doesn't need to go deep in the soil, and the plant has a lot. She can grow a lot because she has a lot to eat, to be nourished. Je sais pas comment on dit. And the production is much more in the limestone, clay stone, the soil, limestone and clay. So more production and less concentration. So the structure comes also from low yields, because on this granitic soil, this is a poor soil, and the wines doesn't produce a lot.
Yeah.
For example, this year we had a very low production, only 30 hectolitres per hectare instead of 55. So it's almost half of the production.
Yeah, no, I understand, and it's sort of a word that means what it means in your mind, but it's very hard to explain.
Yes.
People use backbone also, like to say that, or core, or structure. A lot of the things you're talking about to indicate some sort of organization in the mind, if you want, of how the wine tastes and how the different flavors are attached to it. But we can spend hours talking about this stuff. Let's move on to the Fleurie, unless people have more questions.
Donc, the Fleurie Garants.
Ouais.
The cru, which is situated here, I think. So is the north of Beaujolais. Is about 50 kilometers of our winery. So we vinificate all the grapes in south of Beaujolais. So the grapes come in the truck in south of Beaujolais, and is come from pink granite soil with mica and quartz, Fleurie, and is southwest exposition with how do you say?
Southeast.
No, southwest. So this is a Fleurie Garant with good structure, because the soil with this exposition, the sun is coming in the afternoon. The grapes has the sun in the afternoon. So the grapes are ripe earlier than the other cru in Fleurie Garant. And we have but with this, we have more structure. With this soil, with this exposition, with the altitude, we have a good structure in this wine. And the maceration is about 10 and 11 days. After we press the grapes, and we age the wine. This wine aged in foudre, the big oak, and 20% in oak barrel, normal oak barrel, new oak barrel, 20%. Because this terroir,
the food are used, right? They're not new. Yeah.
no,
Yes, they are very, very old, the foudre. They are about 50 hectoliters,
yes,
so about 7,000 bottles in this food, and they are very, very old. But we like this type of aging because it gives a micro oxygenation of the wine.
and we add all the in the blend. We use 10%. It depends of the year, but 15 or 10% of new barrels.
So,
and because this terroir can support this aging.
and so how long do you keep them in food?
During 6 to 7 months, between 6 to 7 months.
Okay. And then you bottle and they go out right away. You don't keep the bottle. I mean, there's no room. Yeah.
No, the wine is ready to drink when we bottle it, and we can drink it 10 years later, 15.
With just one thing, I comment, something that struck me in this Fleurie when I first tasted it is there's a little bit of sweetness in it and a little bit of milk chocolate, I would say, sort of taste that comes through, which is sort of very unique. Now, you know, some people may like it or not like it, but it is different. And I don't know if you get that, and I don't know where that comes from.
I think it's the age of the oak barrel.
The age of the oak. But
Like vanilla.
Maybe a sweetness.
Sweetness, yes, but on is the vintage, because 2019 we got small yield and hot temperature.
so you got more fruit, more sugar in the
more concentration.
Yeah.
And perhaps also the sweetness comes from the maturity, because now we have a hotter climate.
Yeah.
That is very, very significant.
Yeah.
Because we used to harvest 30 years ago, end of September, the beginning of October. And now we sometimes start on the 20th of August. So it's really, really different, and it's hot. And I think the sweetness also can come from this.
The other comment I want to make, and I think that's for everybody because we always talk about this, is this bottle here has been open almost 3 hours here. And then Francois and I tasted it a week ago, another bottle, but we hadn't opened it for as long. And it certainly tastes a lot better after 3 hours than it does after 1 hour. And this is an opportunity to really encourage people more and more to open their wine, especially if it's a young wine like this, as early as possible, because it's always going to get better. I think a lot of people hesitate. They don't know what they want to drink, and they're not thinking about dinner because it's at work or whatever. I think it's just it's worth it to think about it in advance and open your bottle of wine you're going to drink for dinner. Open it at 3 or 4 in the afternoon if you can. And this is another example of that. This is continuing to get better, you know, with the afternoon here.
Yes, it's interesting. Yes, too. Yes,
Uh,
and sometimes also when you drink it the day after,
Mm.
it's also very good.
Yeah, it continues to bring out different tastes and different flavors and different aromas. I mean, you know, it doesn't have to be better or worse, but it's different. And it's like you have a different picture of the same thing at different points in time, and each one is a little bit different. But
Yes.
this one certainly improves with a little bit of air, a little bit of air.
And I think perhaps Jean-Étienne can explain better, but I think it is also due to our way of vinificate.
Because you don't have any sulfites, also very little, so it needs to get.
Yes, and it's contrary of oxidation. Comment expliquer?
Mais je peux traduire si vous voulez.
La vinification, elle est un peu le contraire de l'oxydation.
Non, mais
je sais pas comment expliquer.
Non, mais c'est la macération semi-carbonique en grappe entière qui fait les remontages. Non, mais...
Et puis l'absence de sulfate, je crois aussi. Ça a besoin d'un peu plus d'air quand on ouvre la bouteille. Quand il y a pas
on a air, nous.
Oui, non, mais en fait, il y a des vins qui ont un côté un peu plus oxydatif et qui sont plus ouverts et plus au début, qui sont beaucoup plus, comment dire, beaucoup plus de fruits, beaucoup plus d'arômes tout au début, mais qui ne tiennent pas.
Qui ne tiennent pas la route.
Ah, mais ça, c'est the concentration of...
Yeah. So we were talking about how some wines really open up very well and are really just beautiful when you first open them, and then over a few hours maybe they just sort of go downhill, and these are the wines that are probably less concentrated and have a more forward method of vinification, and you've got wines like these that actually get better with air. And maybe you don't get very much when you first open it, but as it gets oxidized, it really becomes what it's supposed to be after a few hours. This is just for everybody's benefit.
And also, this for this reason, they can age more.
Yeah.
Because we have done some vertical wine tasting with other vintners, and our wines, after 5, 8 years, 10 years, they tasted more younger and fresher than the others.
And we call Fleurie the Queen of Beaujolais. Voilà. And Moulin-a-Vent the King.
The king, yeah. Yeah, well, we're gonna get to that. So any more questions? I have some more questions, but I'm gonna save them for later. But let's go into the Moulin-a-Vent then.
I told you this because it's like the Fleurie is more feminine crew, more fineness, and Moulin-a-Vent is the king because it's the most powerful terroir in Beaujolais. The Moulin-a-Vent.
The Fleurie is sweet, so that's why it's more feminine. I guess we all know that, you know.
So the Moulin-a-Vent les Trois Roches is a blend between 3 different granite and terroir. And we have Roche Grès, La Rochelle, and Roche Noire. And these 3 terroirs give a complete Moulin-a-Vent because we have fruit, the fineness, and the power, the structure in this whole terroir, these 3 granite. And in Moulin-a-Vent, we have there are various of granite with manganese. And this for this terroir give a structure wine, the Moulin-a-Vent. Structure wine. And that's why we can keep on age this wine 5, 10, after 5, 10, 15 years later. And after, when the gamay age and when the gamay old, is similar to Pinot Noir. Is
Yeah.
similar to Pinot
Yeah.
Noir.
How old are the vines?
Sorry?
How old are the vines?
Yeah.
This for this terroir on average 40 years. 40 years old. And the maceration is between 10 to 12 days. And we use 70% of big powder for the age during 6 months and 30% of oak barrels between 1 to 5 years old. Because this terroir, this appellation can support more barrels.
More
Yeah.
wood. More wood.
Woods.
Yeah, donc it's 6 months, also 6 to 7 months, you said, also so the aging time is the same, and it's a whole cluster. It's just longer maceration. And do you so you have these 3 Roche terroirs. When do you blend them? In the beginning or at the end?
When do we? Sorry.
Blend.
Blend. After we vinificate separate.
Yeah.
All the terroir, and we blend after the press. When
After
all
the
the wine
press.
are pressed, when we put in the food.
D'accord. So they go in the food together. They're aging together.
It depends. We try. It depends on the quantity, but we try to keep separate in the food each terroir. But sometimes it depends.
So
on
then you put them then they go through another tank to do the assemblage, and then they go in the bottle.
Yes, we blend it before the bottle.
Yeah. Okay. Now there's something about the Moulin-a-Vent. I just wanted to ask this question because I've read that in many places, that whole area is full of magnesium. And there was even a manganese mine, François was telling me, when he was a kid in that region. Now the magnesium is very toxic to the vines. And so as a result, it really makes the vines even more concentrated and lower yield because they're fighting a toxic mineral that's in the soil. And that's what gives it even more concentration in the Moulin-a-Vent. Is that, and I know you talk about this on your website as well. So is that sort of how it works, or what else do you have to say about this?
Magnesium.
The manganese.
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 Je sais pas ça.
Well, it's difficult to explain, but I don't know. But the only thing I know is this terroir give the most powerful wine in general in this appellation. So it's come from the manganese. Maybe it's with a yield, but I don't know exactly the.
So how what's the yield? What's the yield compared to the others? What is your yield?
In Moulin-a-Vent, it's 45 hectares. It depends of the year.
Yeah.
For example, in Fleurie, it's more 50 hectares. But it depends of altitude and the position between these 3 different Roches. So we have these 3 different. We decided to blend these 3 different Roches because we have all the quality, all the advantage in order to give a good Moulin-a-Vent.
Go ahead, sorry.
For example, La Rochelle. La Rochelle is the most powerful terroir in Moulin-a-Vent. So this gives the structure, Roche Grès the fineness, and Roche Noir the fruit. Yes, you have a...
No, I'm just trying to respond to some people's questions also as we're talking. I don't know if you see them in the chat.
So Roche Grey is the fruit. Roche
Ouais, mais
Grey.
j'ai expliqué.
Ouais, mais je sais pas s'il a entendu.
Non, ça j'ai raté par contre.
Ouais, il m'a semblé.
We blend the three different roches,
Yeah.
granite, Roche Grey, La Rochelle, and Roche Noire, because we have a structure with La Rochelle, because this is the most powerful terroir in Moulin-a-Vent. The finest with Roche Grey, and the fruit with Roche Noire.
Yeah, no, but I mean, this is really now it's funny because we have different comments here on the chat. Some people prefer the Moulin-a-Vent, some people seem to prefer the Fleurie, and they are different. And it's not about which is better, which is worse. I think at the end of the day, people, should go with what they like, because a lot of these wines are different, and you can't give them a score objectively, like, oh, this is an A+ and this is an A-. It's really about whether people like it or not, and there's no need to justify it. I mean, I'm just trying to make that point for the people on the call.
And it's personal. The tasting is personal. It depends what do we want to eat, when we want to drink the wine, our sensation. For example, for the Moulin-a-Vent, we can match with cheese, with all the meat on poultry, with chocolate, dessert.
Poultry is more with the Fleurie. Poultry.
Yeah.
And,
Well, it depends if it's a chicken breast or a thigh. I mean, we can get down. Ça dépend si c'est la poitrine ou la cuisse aussi. Parce que bon, il y a des
It depends also the sauce.
ouais.
For example, Moulin-a-Vent matches well with wild meat.
Yeah, gibier. Yeah,
Yeah.
game.
And also with sauce, with more yes, and the Fleurie is more with white meat. It's better with white meat.
Or without with I don't know, appetizer.
Yeah.
We can the Beaujolais in general is easy to enjoy without food, with food. For example, the Origine with starter plates. If we want to eat white meat, yes, we can use Fleurie on the Moulin-a-Vent for the red meat, or with chocolate dessert. I know, because the Beaujolais don't have a strong tannins or structure like Côte du Rhône or other wines. So it's for this it's easy to appreciate with different food, because
with every food, it matches with every food.
Yeah.
In fact, you can.
As we have more and more people, I think, who do not eat meat, I think we should have new suggestions on food that doesn't include meat or chicken. I mean, there's so many other things, and it's always challenging to think of, okay, what is it? Does it go with eggplant, or does it go with some sort of a mushroom dish or something like that? Because I think these are also very good possibilities, for people who don't eat meat. I know it's a crime for the French not to eat meat, but it is happening. It is happening.
With cheese.
But cheese is funny. Cheese is funny with red wine. It often goes better with white wine.
White wine,
yes.
Because the acidity really cuts through it. With the red wine, it just becomes this glob, and it's kind of hard to. But we train to do that, but I don't think it works as well.
It's true.
But
in France, it's very common to drink red wines with cheese, but it's not good for the palate.
Yeah, it doesn't really work. It's just, yeah, it's too much fat. Well, um, the okay. Now this is what somebody was saying also. What are suggestions for the Beaujolais with vegan dishes? But I don't know if you guys have any suggestions, or we could just say instead of meat, say mushrooms, you know, or eggplant. I mean, eggplant is a bit more spicy, so maybe it would go better with the Origine. And then
Mushroom is good with Moulin-a-Vent. Huh?
Yeah.
Fish
No,
with mushroom, yes.
Yeah. Because you've got the earth, also the earthiness and the dirt, and you have some of that in the Moulin-a-Vent. I think the Fleurie would go well with almost with dessert.
Yes.
Yeah, and I know that's unusual, but this particular one to me would go with a dessert.
Yes. Particularly chocolate dessert. And also red fruit. Fruit tart.
Some fruit tart or something like that. Yes.
Yes, red fruit tart.
Do people have any? I mean, there was some question earlier about Beaujolais in general. I mean, I think here people talk about table wine, but I don't know if that's a definition that makes really much sense, because to me, all wines are table wines, because all wines can be had with food, over dinner. It's just about what do you like and how much money you want to spend on a good bottle of wine. So I don't know if that's even in French, if you guys make a difference between a vin de table and a regular wine, other than maybe saying that a vin de table is something a little bit cheaper. But I don't know if that's true, because in Italy, that's not the case. So I don't know how you think about it in France.
The particularity of Beaujolais, we call it ce vin de soif.
D'accord.
Or a vin de copain. This is for Beaujolais.
Yeah.
For the cru, it's different. It's more with gastronomy.
Okay.
But the Beaujolais in general, it's vin de comptoir, with some tartine, charcuterie.
You can put it in the fridge. Ça peut se mettre au frigo aussi. Yeah. So it's good for.
For Beaujolais, it's with decontracted way of life and decontracted situations. And with the cru, it's more serious, with table wine, with the dishes and cooking and fine cooking. Beaujolais can also be with appetizer.
Yeah. You can even, I mean, the Beaujolais, you can also drink the Beaujolais, the Origine, with a fish dish or with a fish pâté or something like that as an appetizer.
With also oysters.
Oysters. Here we go. Yeah. So, you know, there's a lot to do. Any more questions? Any comments? No? Any comments on the Queen versus the King?
Do you agree? Do you agree with that?
It's funny because I was telling Christine that an hour ago, and she started laughing at me. But now you guys said it, so it must be true. Yeah. You know, so if you say it, it's true.
It is. If
I say it, it's funny. If you say it, it's true. And you guys are open for visits, right? I mean,
yes.
You're open? So because some people were asking about that.
Yes.
So now it's and this is, you know, I don't know what your busy time is, but this is probably a good time. I don't know if people come in the winter. In the summer, you're very busy, I would imagine, because you're working on the vines and
so we are always very busy.
Always busy, yeah. So that's a good answer, you know.
Now they can send mail and we will reply.
Okay, good. And then we always have this question, and you talked about this a little bit, which is the climate change, you know, and the warming and the. Now, what impact it's now it has some impact on you already because you talked about this. But if you look 10 years, 20 years in the future, what's going to happen?
We don't know. We don't know what's happened because the climate change very fast. We can have years very hot and years with a lot of rain, like this year, with frost. It's complicated to anticipate. But of course, we have global warming. But the gamay are resist very good to the hot temperature. And when we have a lot of rain or a lot of sun or hot temperature, our soil, the granite and the gamay resist very good of difference of climate.
Yeah.
Rain, frost is with hot temperature and the rain. So in the future, I don't know, maybe we will find, I don't know, we will see how is the vineyard support the global warming, or maybe we will change the varieties, the grape, I don't know.
The grass.
Yes, we have just planted 10 hectares of new vineyard with gamay, and I wonder if it is a good decision.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because it takes time. You don't know. You know, you have to plan 10 years in advance. If you want to plant something, if you want to buy a new area, or if you want to go up the hill. I mean, is there any room to go up in the hills, or is it all planted already?
Yes, in the village, but we don't have the. Yes, in the village we have upper
altitude, but
upper altitude with forest. We have some forest.
Or maybe we can use maybe in the appellation, maybe the authorized irrigation.
Yeah, I see. Because right now there's no irrigation; it's all dry farming.
In south of France, yes.
Yeah. But at the moment, it is the right moment for Gamay and Beaujolais.
Yeah.
Because we have high natural degrees, about 12, 13 natural. It's good. And we don't chaptalize.
Exactly. You don't have to add sugar anymore. Yeah.
Yes. And the ripeness is good.
Mm.
The harvests are earlier, but in general, it's very good at the moment for us.
Yeah.
Whereas 30 years ago, 40 years ago, the wines were more acid. They had the low degrees, so they had to chaptalize.
Yeah.
So at the moment, it's very good.
Yeah. No,
in the future, we don't know.
Voilà.
It's a big question.
Oh, I had a question for you, Jean-Étienne, which is and that somebody else is asking something similar. When I was visiting some of these vineyards a couple of years ago in the Rhone and you see a lot of the new generation, people like you, and they all seem to have worked in Australia, in New Zealand, in Napa, and that's kind of an interesting phenomenon, because I'm sure it's new. I don't think people did that. I don't think your father did that. I don't think his father did that. So why are you guys doing this, and what are you learning from going to all these really, really different places? But that seems to happen for this new generation, and it's
yes, because now it's easier to go and to travel after the study, and now so we have with many friends we travel, we worked in different wineries. And me, I work in a family winery in Australia. So I wanted to discover the Pinot Noir. How is the Pinot Noir, the Chardonnay, the Sauvignon. In New Zealand, I worked in a big winery of Sauvignon. So we learn new material, modern, because they are maybe more, I don't know, more investment.
Invest more, yeah. They have more capital.
The process, the technique, but it's not only. Well, we have a good. It's more technique.
Yeah.
Technique way in Australia, New Zealand, and California. It's interesting, but they like to clean every time, to disinfect. So yes, there's a different way, and it's
you didn't understand.
They kill the yeast.
No, they like to clean the materials and disinfect all the time.
Mais ça tue toutes les levures.
Yes, and when you have one, after is explosion. So it's good to see all the different materials and different terroir. But after you take the good the advantage of all the experience.
I just have la final comment on and I forgot to mention it, on the Moulin-a-Vent. I detect on it there's more salinity. There is il y a de la salinité sur la langue on the Moulin-a-Vent. Do you agree with that? And do you?
Yes, but after is personal. And me, I can use maybe one other term for you is the salinity. Yes, I agree.
Salinity is on the tongue.
Yes.
Yeah, and it is what it is. I mean, you can explain it. It's very easy to explain because it's a little bit of salt, and so. Some of these wines have it. In the US, you have it in wines that are facing the ocean because you have a lot of that in the Northwest. But here in Beaujolais, I don't know where you get it from. I guess from the soil. Or
the soil, but after I don't know exactly. No. I'm so sorry. But,
no, but that's the difference between, I guess, the king and the queen. You've got salinity and you've got milk chocolate. So you know you get to pick. I think we're good unless anybody has more questions. But we told you guys we try to keep it to 1 hour because we know you're very busy. I think we covered a lot of ground. And we really appreciate the time. This is a discovery for us, and you know, we're gonna go out and buy some more Pierre-Marie Chermette.
Well, thank you.
Which is they're all very good. They're all very good.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this experience.
Thank you.
So
Merci.
Thank you.
Merci.
To see you in Beaujolais.
Merci.
There. Yeah, we go there.
Bye.
bye. Au revoir.
Merci beaucoup.
Bye.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. Merci.